So today we're going to do a little bit of everything. You want to have your blocks, your strap, and your therapy balls. And just before we get started, I want to show you something that makes me really happy. I got a disco ball. And the sun hits it during the day and it makes the room sparkle. And it's kind of like a self-care thing. I'm going through a really, 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 really incredibly hard time personally. And it just felt like it was going to spark some joy in daily life and try to cultivate that childlike wonder. So I wanted to just share that because I think it's important to remind ourselves to feed our inner child and to just try to create as much joy as we can in life, especially during times of transition and trauma and just deep, deep grief and sadness. It is those small little things. So, every time I walk in here, I see it. And even if I can't muster a physical smile, there's a smile on the inside at least. So just a little reminder that, yeah, we need to cultivate joy and we need to feed our inner child. So, where to start today? Take a moment and balance our right and left side with some breath work. So you're just going to take your thumb, and I like to use my ring finger, and you're going to plug, I'm going to go with the right, and I'm going to inhale through the left. And actually, let's actually mix two breathing techniques together. So let's mix that two-part nervous system breath where we inhale 2/3, pause, and then inhale that last third, and then exhale. And then we'll do it this with the flippity floppity hand thingamajig. I always think it's like a hang 10, but you put the pinky finger up. So what I'll do is I'll plug the right side of the nose. I'm going to inhale 2/3, pause, inhale that last third, plug the nose, open the right side so the left side is plugged, and exhale through the right side. I keep that right side open. I do my 2/3 inhale, pause, inhale that last third, pause, close, open the left side, exhale. Inhale through the left, 2/3, pause, inhale again, close, open the right side, and exhale. Right, inhale through the right, pause, inhale a little bit more, close, and open the left. So you got the hang of it. Now just go with your own pace for a couple rounds. And you want to finish up with exhaling through the right nostril. So whenever you get there, you'll just drop the hand and return to your normal breath. And now I want you to grab your strap. You can do this standing or you can do this seated. You do it seated, I suggest sitting on your knees. I'm going to do it seated today. And my knees are upset, so I need a little extra support. Whether you're doing it standing or you're doing it seated, it's really important to have a strong tuck of the tailbone. So there's a gentle rounding of the low back, and my pubic bone and belly button are moving towards each other, okay? So there's a bit of like a static crunch, mini crunch happening. I'm really engaged in my core. And why this is we're going to do some shoulder mobilization. And when you try to mobilize the shoulders and maybe they're not so mobilized, we tend to then find the mobility in our low back waistline because we don't have ribs there. We've got all this open space and we're really flexible and juicy in that spot. So oftentimes our low back and our mid back pain is actually coming from shoulder immobility because it's doing extra work because our shoulder's not mobilized. So this is why having that little stagnant crunch, core engaged, is so super duper important. I don't know if I started the recording on this yoga class today. I'm losing my mind. Nope, I am recording. Woo! Okay, and we're back. So, this little mini crunch situation, super duper important. So you get a little core work at the same time, and then you're just gonna take your strap and just pick an amount of length that you'd like, because we're gonna adjust it in a second. So what we're gonna do is bring it all the way up, and then this is essentially where we start to like wiggle and squiggle, and all of our core loosens, and we stop the shoulder stretch and we take it into something else. So you're gonna start to bring it backwards, and you're gonna maybe hit a wall, and you go, ugh, I would have to like stick my chest out, or I could just open up my hands more. Okay. Now, if you get up here and you're like, that's super easy, then you know you need to walk the hands in a little bit. So you find your sweet spot. You engage that core, you tuck the tail under. So I'm really lengthening my low back towards my heels. Same thing if I'm standing, okay? I'm lengthening my low back towards my heels. I'm just real tired and I want to sit. And then you drop it down, okay? And then from here, you lift it back up. And there's usually one direction that's easier than the other. And bring it back forward. So it's a super easy movement, but it can be really challenging when you do it right, okay? So I want you to do these exercises with your breath. So as you inhale, you bring the arms up. As you exhale, you bring the arms down. As you inhale, you bring the arms up. As you exhale, you bring the arms down. And I want you to close your eyes as you do this, because I want you to really turn your awareness inwards so that you can feel all the tiny little nuances, because you're going to notice there's different places going up and back where you want to cheat in the core, and there's different places going back forward where you want to cheat. And I want you to tune in so you can feel this in your body and you can correct it in your body. And I want you to notice if one shoulder kind of swings up, so you're feeling deeply what's going on in your body. And what happens when you are really super aware of what's happening in your body as you're moving, you then make those changes, and that creates new neural pathways. So if we're just going through our practice and we're not being mindful, we're not paying attention, we're just kind of like, up dog, down dog, warrior one, warrior two, whatever. Yeah, sure, we may be getting a great workout, but we're not actually shifting our connection to our body. We're not changing those neuromuscular pathways. So we're just tuning out and getting a workout. And what I want here for us is to create real change in the body. So you're going to close your eyes and you're going to work with your own breath and your own movement. And I'm going to let you know when you need to finish up. Okay, so adjust as you need to. As you move through this, you might feel like, oh, I can go a little bit shorter on the hands, or it might feel like, you know what, my shoulders roll mad, I need to get longer. So on your own, eyes closed. And if you find a spot that's like real crunchy and weird, just like when we work with the therapy balls, I want you to stop and do that little eraser movement where you just kind of like just forwards and back a little bit. And let's do 3 more full rounds. So from front to back to front is 1. And you want to do 3 full rounds. Once you've finished, just resting your hands down by your sides, whether you're seated or standing, and taking a couple rounds of breath. Just letting that movement integrate through the body. Okay, so I want to open up the spine a little bit. And so I want to do a twist, but before we do the twist, I want to use the balls because we've got them. You might as well use them for just one position. And that position is going to be kind of like, how do I describe this? If you feel your ribs, right? You feel down and then you hit your floating rib, like that first floating rib that kind of just like pops up out of nowhere. I want you to go back up onto the last connected rib, and then move it all the way around. Put your hands there, and then grab the therapy balls and set them there. So you've got one on either side of the spine. And we're going to drop down onto our backs. And you might find that it feels better to have your feet on the floor or to have your legs long. Totally up to you. Let the head drop back. Let the arms open up. Take a couple deep breaths here. Now, this might be plenty right here, okay? It might feel like you're at your edge. That might be very intense. If your legs are straight, I want you to, if you want to go into another movement, okay? So you're welcome to stay right here. If you want to come into another movement, go ahead and bend your knees, bring your feet onto the floor. And we're just going to windshield wiper the knees side to side. And you take it just as far as it feels is good for your body and where you are kind of keeping the balls in place. So as you drop the knees over to one side, more pressure will be put onto the ball on that side of the spine. And there's a little bit of shearing action across the erector muscles that run along the spine. Now, if you've done ball work with me before, you know that oftentimes we place the balls on either side of the spine and give ourselves a hug and kind of rock back and forth. But with this position, we're just a little too low for that rocking action to be stable. So this leg and pelvis rocking does the trick. And this is often a spot of a lot of tension because, like I spoke about before, we've got, our low back and our belly that are rib free and take a lot of the work when the shoulders don't want to do their job. So this spot right above them in the spine is usually pretty mad. Good. And you're going to come back, center, pause. And if your legs are straight, you're going to bend the knees. And you're going to try to tuck your tail, pull your pubic bone towards your belly. Now, you might stay on the floor for this, and it might just be more of an idea of tucking the tail. All right. If it feels appropriate in your body, you might tuck the tail and lift those hips slightly up off the ground. I'm not coming into bridge, okay? It's just the action of tucking my tail that slides my butt up off the ground. So when I release that tuck, my butt goes right back onto the floor. Then you're just going to do that a couple times. So again, you might not be lifting up off the floor at all. It might be just a very subtle movement and a release. Do 2 more tuck and releases. And once you've released down, you're just gonna drop the knees to one side, reach around with the other hand and remove the balls. Set yourself down and take a moment to just breathe into this. Let that integrate through the spine. Then you're gonna pick your hips up, swing them to the right, and lengthen your left leg down the mat. So your butt's over to the right and your left leg is kind of in line with the center of your chest. Right foot's gonna come onto the left knee and then we're gonna twist it over. And you might get a really nice crack right through that area where we were just working. Now to start opening up the chest, which is where we're gonna go in a minute, you can turn your head to the left towards your knee. And that's gonna deepen the stretch through the right chest and shoulder. The bigger you can breathe here into your belly and the low back, the more you're massaging all of that musculature as well as your internal organs. Taking a deep breath in. You're gonna exhale back through center, bending both knees, feet to the floor. Pick your butt up, come back center. Take a couple breaths here, let the knees drop together. Then you're gonna pick your hips up, swing them to the left, extend that right leg, so the right leg lines up with the center of the chest. And then left foot on top of the knee, twist yourself over. Again, you make another adjustment. And if you'd like to deepen the stretch through the left chest and shoulder, you turn your head to the right. Breathing nice and deeply. And it's time to come out of the pose. We're just gonna keep rolling to the right. Coming around onto the belly, and let's take a moment in Sphinx pose. So elbows are right under the shoulders, feet are a little bit wider than hip width. And you're gonna let the belly soften towards the mat and your heart gently pulls forwards. Really breathing into that spot in the middle of the back that we're just working on with the therapy balls. Okay, well, we're gonna work with the therapy balls. I'm gonna try to do this on the floor. Never done it on the floor before. Always have used the wall. So grab a block. We're just gonna experiment. You're gonna need one of the balls. You're gonna kind of position the block like, kind of under your arm in Sphinx. And if I need to move it forward a little bit, because we're going to work the pec muscles. So if you were to bring your thumb kind of like right where the strap of your shirt, if you're wearing a tank top, would be, and you can palpate with your thumb the space between two different muscles, and you can actually usually grab one of them, and it should be tender. And that's the muscle we're going to work on. So that muscle kind of comes down and works its way towards the nipple. So we're going to come probably 3 fingers up that muscle from the nipple, set the ball there. And then set the ball on the block. Now, you're going to decide how much pressure to put here by how much you drop down onto the block. So obviously the wider you take your arms, the more intense it's going to be. Whoa. And I feel that nerve right down through my elbow and into my fingers. So hang out here for a couple of breaths. It might be nice to take another block for your forehead. And if you would like to explore this area, you can take that left arm and walk it forward. And then you can kind of finger walk out. And down. And then you can walk it back up. If you find a juicy spot, as always, you can pause, breathe. Another option, if you're working from the top, is to just drag the elbow down, taking the hand with you, as far down as it goes, and then reach it back up. Bringing the hand down next to your shoulder. You're gonna just lift yourself up and move that block across to the other side. Palpate that muscle again. Find that 3 fingers above the nipple. And position yourself down onto the block in that wide elbowed sphinx. Just resting and breathing. If you'd like to add movement, you can walk the fingertips up and start that little finger crab walk thing out to the side and down towards the hip and then back up. And as you move back up, if you are moving, you always have the option then of shifting into dropping the hand in the forearm and sliding the elbow back and down. And reaching back up. And then you're going to bring the hand next to the shoulder, like that. Move that block out of the way, come back into Sphinx for just a couple breaths. Should actually feel like it's a little easier to breathe. You can leave the blocks on your mat. And we're just gonna move ourselves up and back into downward facing dog. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. You can slowly pedal the legs out. It's always amazing to me when I do a lot of upper body opening before I come into my first down dog. It's like a whole different experience. Where just my legs are unhappy, but my upper body's like, this is great. Feel the hips. And you're going to step your right foot forward, not quite to your hands, and grab your blocks, come up on the high end of the blocks. And you're going to let that left heel sink back as you straighten out the right leg. So feet are parallel. You're melting the left heel down, but it might not touch the floor. And you're up on the blocks. You might need to walk them back a little bit. And depending on where your flexibility is, you might need to even come up onto your fingertips. I really like to come up onto my fingertips for this. And then you start to push the hips back more and send your heart past your front toes to the very front of your mat. So I'm not taking my head, okay? I'm looking where my heart's going, which is the top of my mat. And I'm really pressing the hips back and the heart forward. So the length focus is between the hips and the heart. And I'm drawing my shoulder blades onto my back. So there's a gentle squeeze between the shoulder blades. And I'm really trying to send the heart forward. So I'm trying to almost come into a back bend here. That's what it should feel like. You're really trying to find an arch through the mid-back, right where we were working with those therapy balls. And then you're going to rebend the right knee and spiral the left heel down so that the foot comes onto the mat. You can leave the blocks right where they are. We're going to come back to them in a minute. But take the right elbow onto the right knee. And I want you to think about pushing that knee forward and out. Okay? So I'm pushing it away towards the pinky toe. And I'm spiraling the left hip open. Spiral the whole rib cage, chest, shoulder. And then slide that left arm around behind your back. Now, just like we did with the shoulder opener in the beginning of class, I want you to find that little static micro crunch. So pubic bone and belly button and rib cage all come closer together in the front of the body. So that lengthens the low back. That'll open up a little bit more through the hips. And you're going to get more in the shoulders. Whereas if you send your butt back and you get into a little back bend, you're just using the flexibility of your abdomen and your low back to facilitate what should be a shoulder and a hip opener. So I'm pushing with my right elbow, I'm pushing my knee forward and out towards the pinky toe. I'm tucking the tail, finding that microstatic crunch, and rolling the left shoulder open. And then unwind. Bring the hands down onto the mat, lift the left heel up, step yourself back into down dog,
If you really want to take a vinyasa, you can move your blocks and take a vinyasa. And you're going to bend the left knee, step it through, not quite all the way to the hands. You're going to lengthen out the right heel, so feel that right heel drop back, and then lengthen out the left leg. Pull the hips back, and then start to send the heart towards the top of the mat. So my eyes go just to the top of the mat, and then I'm trying to find that back bend right in the middle of my back where we've been working. To send the heart forwards. Lengthening the hips back, taking the heart forward. And come out of this, you're gonna gently bend that left knee, spiral the right heel down onto the mat, left elbow onto the left knee. We use the elbow to push the knee forwards and then out towards the pinky toe. Finding that length through the low back, we find the static micro crunch through the belly, and then wrap the arm behind the back as much as you can, rolling the chest open towards the sky. Most important thing is that little static micro crunch. And then think, what's going on with my knee? Push the knee forward and out. And then how much more can I roll open towards the sky? So core, knee, shoulder. Breathe. Gently release and unwind. Lift the right heel up. Step that left foot back into down dog. If you want to take a vinyasa, go for it. Bring the knees down onto the mat. Keep your toes tucked. You're gonna walk. Keep your butt where it is, but walk your hands forward, dropping the chest and the head towards the mat, maybe all the way down to the mat. And I want you to really focus on the space between your elbow and your bottom rib. opening that up and breathing into it. So the underarm, the armpit really is reaching towards the mat. Rounding through the back, walk the hands back under the shoulders. You can release the toes. Let's just do a couple rounds of cat and cow. So what I want you to do is as you arch the back, again, we don't send the head forward, we send the heart forward. So we're focused much more on the lumbar and thoracic spine as opposed to the cervical spine. The cervical spine doesn't need to be yanked into this, but the thoracic spine can really use a nudge. So as you come into that arch, pause and take a full breath in and out. It's as if you're trying to squeeze your shoulder blades down towards your hips, like you're trying to bring your shoulder blades and your hips as close together as you can. And then round. Hug your chin towards your chest and think about pushing your forehead and your pubic bone towards each other. So they're trying to move together as close as possible. And again, we take a nice big deep breath in and then out. Now we move back into our arch. All right, really focusing on that thoracic spine. Pull the shoulder blades down. Try to touch the shoulder blades and the hips to each other. Take a deep breath in and out. And then around. Tugging the chin to the chest. Trying to touch your forehead to your pubic bone. Take a deep breath in. And then out. Come back to a neutral spine. I'm going to come around onto our backs, heading for Shavasana, but I do invite you, since we've got the therapy balls out, if there's a spot in your back that maybe you noticed was feeling really tight, I definitely noticed one in my body, then you can just take the first 10 breaths of Shavasana with the therapy balls in that spot. So as you get yourself sorted, resting, completely dying into those therapy balls. So just let yourself be as heavy as possible. And you'll take 10 breaths there before releasing all the way down onto the mat. you haven't already, dropping off of those therapy balls, coming flat on your back. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Feeling sensation come back into your body, deepening your breath. Taking a couple full body breaths. And then finding a nice stretch. Before bending the knees. And carefully rolling over onto your side. Rest here for a couple breaths. And pressing up. Coming back to seated. Bring your hands together at your heart center. Just taking a moment to extend gratitude out into every cell of your body. Just thanking it for being awesome.
And thank you for practicing with me today. Namaste.